Well, I wasn't expecting myself to be making a video like this, but here we are. So, what's up, boys? My name is Scalibur, and today I'm going to be talking about Tower Fantasy. Funny enough. So, the reason why I wanted to be making a video like this is because I feel like it's kind of important especially as a free-to-play player, in what the fuck you're doing in something like Tower Fantasy. And let me explain. And I wanted to talk about more about the idea that you're going for and the team comp that you want to go with. Now, the way on how I see Tower Fantasy, with me comparing to other players, is I think more in a long-term directional idea. Like, I don't think about the now, I think more about the later type of idea. And I see like other players, especially with like, some of the Dolphins and obviously the fucking Whales, right? And they would prefer to go for the now more because, they have the money and they can afford it. So it's like it makes sense to them, right? So, you can see here, I got myself a bunch of notes. I wanted to talk about Saki Fua especially, because she's like the newest character that she's came out. Now, I know for a fucking fact that I feel like either Lyra or Lynn, I feel like more with Lynn more than Lyra, is going to be coming out next after Sakifua in like maybe like 3 weeks or 5 days before Sakifua is going to be no longer limited and she'll be like vaulted or some shit. And so I wanted to give off my takes on how I would do, quote unquote, my research or homework, whatever the fuck you want to call it, for Tower Fantasy. So, what I've learned with something like Saki Fua is that although she's a pretty good summon to have, you're not forced to have her. You don't really need to get her um, as a means of keeping up with other players. And here's why. Number one, you're losing to Wills anyway. Let's be real. Stop giving a fuck about that shit. Number two, you're losing to some Dolphins as well. Now, let's get those two out the way, and let me actually give you a fucking reason. It only depends on the team comp that you're going for, and I don't want to see someone like you, for example, that pulls a Sakifua because she is good with one skill. I feel like this is the same problem that I feel like a lot of players are gonna go down with Lin. I feel like, in my opinion, and I could be a fucking idiot with this, I am completely aware with it, but I feel like something with Lin, yes, she is very future proof, and yes, she does give you buffs, but the way and how the buffs work, if you actually look at Lin, they're not really that great except for like maybe Frost and for sure with Volt. If you were to look at Lin with fire buffs, they're not that great. They're just 4 extra seconds of fire tech, and you do maybe like some more damage, which is like 15%, which is not the greatest, but like it does something. You have a problem with Grievous as well. Grievous doesn't really like Lin either. It's just 150% more damage. And I'm not too sure if it's against shielded targets or if it ignores the shield completely. But it's nice, but it's not the greatest, right? Frost, I believe it's like you need to do like 10 attacks and then it gives you like some special bullshit. That's nice. That's like the second best thing you can do with Lin. The absolute fucking best for Lin is if she is paired with Volt. If I'm not lost, you get like 35% extra damage, you get a free dodge, and you get like some sort of extra 30% damage within that 35% damage. So you could like make it multiplicative, or you can add it up. That's basically like somewhere around like the 60 to 65% damage rate for Lin. Now, the way and how I would see Lin right now is she's good for now, and she's good in a couple of months later. But I feel like my concern with something like Lin is as the months go by, she is slowly and surely going to be weaker and weaker and weaker. And let me explain why. Eventually, we will have a tank for every single element, and each of those tanks will have their own resonance, or they will have their own like special, like you need two fire, or you need two volt, two ice, two grievous, right? And not only that, but eventually you'll also get yourself one of every single benediction. You get a benediction for fire, ice, volt, and physical, and they will also have the resonance. I feel like once those 8 special characters are out, and Lyra's gonna be the first one, Sakifu was already there too. So I lied to that. Sakifu was the first one. Lyra's gonna be the second one for Benediction. So Benediction first, Lyra, Fortitude first, Sakifua, right? So we already got one ice, and we're going to be getting ourselves a Grievous, right? Once we get ourselves a fire, ice, Volt, which you could argue Nemesis, right? And Grievous for benediction, and then you also get yourself fire, ice, volt, and grievous for fortitude. Well, then what's the fucking point of having myself Lin when I can just pair up with like these characters instead? And that's the main problem that I have about like these characters thinking that, oh, I must force a summon for Lin because Lin is fucking powerful and all this shit. She is, she's pretty fucking good, I'll give you that. But are you forced to get yourself Lin? I don't really think so. I've done a lot of thinking about it. I've had a lot of thought. I've arguably had some frustration trying to fucking study this shit because it's like a paragraph within a fucking paragraph within some more paragraphs. I had to go through some fucking YouTube videos and they haven't been as helpful as I assumed they would be. So I've been through some fucking bullshit just so that way I can finally understand what the fuck they were going to properly say. And I might not be in the best words right now, but I'm just giving over what I can. I just wanted to make it all in one take, right? So, what something like Sakifua has taught me is you're not forced to summon. You don't really need to do that. But what you should do is have a goal with what you really want. So, my goal, for example, is that I really want to fucking pull Lyra because I've done my studies with Lyra. I've done like what she could actually fucking pull off. And if I could manage to get myself Lyra and a physical fortitude, rest in peace, Mark, because we're not gonna fucking get him for the global service. Um, Once we get ourselves a physical fortitude, I feel like I'm gonna fucking spike up so high. But until that time actually happens, it has to be you know, Lyra, Shiro, slash Umi once she comes out, and like Huma or Merle, for example. So that way I can be the tankiest I can, but I also have the grievous resonance. So I'm gonna be a balanced character for like, I don't know, so long as there's not going to be a physical fortitude character yet. Um, the reason why I feel like I want something like Lyra the most, more than Lin, more than Sakifua, more than like Ruby as well, and you could argue like more than Frigg and Nemesis in a way, is because if you put in the time and effort for the traits with Lyra, I'm essentially just going to be Jesus in Tower of Fantasy, because it says here, if I can fucking see it, 1,200 is just going to be giving you fucking, yeah, increase all HP team members by 12.5%. Does not stack. Okay, that's kind of nice. But here's the kicker. For max traits for 4,000, it says here, while you have Blessing Resonance active, increase the HP of all team by 12.5. That's not stack. Increase your own health by 12.5. If you successfully release a skill while having hyper body, that's that orange shit that you get. So let's say when you're holding the hammer, for example, or Lyra while you're spitting the fucking blade. Or your health is 50% or greater, provide 12 seconds of hyper armor, hyper body for all allies. So for this trait, you're not only giving yourself more health, you're also giving your allies hyper armor, which makes it so that way you are immune to CC, or at least it should be, right? On top of that, with Lyra, there is a very special trait where, at least with 5-star, from what I've seen, let me see if I can find it. Yes, triggering Guardian of Forgiveness 5 times. This is 5-star. Triggering Guardian of Forgiveness 5 times protects you and your guarded target from fatal damage 1 time. So if you played League of Legends, if you're 5-star, you're getting a free Guardian Angel. You die, but you're not really dead because you get rezzed. And the res will restore you with 15% of your HP. Now, if you're Lyra Benediction, I feel like you can just die, get rezzed by 15%, and you can just use something like Coco Ritter, and let's say, even if you're fucking like devastated, you can even use Pepper to an extent. And you just fucking heal that bitch up all the way to 100, you can start all over again. So, just because Lyra is physical and benediction doesn't mean that you're forced to give yourself another Grievous. Because Grievous only makes it so that way you just get like the physical attack and physical like resistance. So it's like a physical buff attack and like a physical defensive trait. But she is supposed to be benediction. I feel like if I was to put in like the amount of effort of me saving up red nucleus and dark crystals, ever since I basically started off the game, which was around 30th of September. So I was a little bit late. I kind of missed Nemesis, but I've been stacking up. I've been banking ever since. The only thing I buy with dark crystals is like the fucking like consumable vanities, just in case. I need to like go for like some more bullshit. And they're only 50 a pop every day, so who gives a fuck? And I only buy them once, so it's not like I'm really losing anything. And I know when to fucking stop with that shit as well. So, what about with 1-star for Lyra? Upon discharge, your personal guardian will be max. Oh, if you're max, excuse me. When using any weapon or skill charge, if your personal guardian is max, your guardian durations will be refreshed and deal extra damage to the number of guardians in the field times 100% of the physical damage, maximum of 8 guardians. So yeah, I don't fucking know what that stands for, but it sounds fucking powerful. It's just, making sure you just do your fucking homework and shit like that. Like, if only there was like a YouTube video for something like Lyra, so that way I don't have to go through all of this fucking bullshit. And so far, it's only been like up until like Lin and Sakifua, and like maybe a little bit of Annabelle here and there, but nothing much. So it really just depends on like what team comp you're trying to go for, I suppose. I don't fucking know. Now, another thing I wanted to say is Sakifua versus Lyra, defense versus health. So the way on how I play Tower Fantasy is probably completely different than how other people play Tower Fantasy. The main character idea that people have is that they want to go max, big dick, DPS. They want to kill something as fast as possible. I'm the exact opposite. I want to basically be my own boss with big dick HP to a point where I feel like I can just shrug off like a ton of damage. I am my own tank. I am my own like person, I guess. I'm my own like raid boss. Um, the way and how I see it is that a lot of people are uh they have like a great sword, but they're wearing clothed armor, and that shit can be teared up so fucking quickly. It's like tissue paper. For me, I prefer to be like a knight in full armor with a big fucking shield, but I'm wielding a foam sword, right? Well, I don't need to give a fuck about this idea because I can still fucking whack you with the shield. And that's my philosophy with being a tank, rather than, yes, you can kill me a lot quicker, but one sneeze and you're fucking dead. Whereas with a tank, yes, I'm basically doing zero damage, but you're also doing zero damage because I'm a fucking tank. Not only that, but I'm also having HP. So not only do you need to go through my defenses, you also need to deal with some more fucking bullshit. My actual health. On top of that, you also need to deal with my shields. So this is the reason why, especially, I love tanking and why I love fortitude. It's because I have the fantasy that I'm my own raid boss. I'm gonna be my own nuisance to X person, or I can taunt the boss for like my teammates, for example, and I like the idea. Now, Sakifura can also tank, yes, and you're probably asking yourself, well, why not just choose Sakifura regardless? Sakifura is nice, especially with the traits, and let's say I did focus on the traits. The traits that she has is that if you go max trait Sakifura, it reads, when you're below 30% of your health, gain 40% of all elemental resistances, and you get an additional 60% frost resistances. So let's say the frost resistances is not really additional, it's multiplicative. I've done the math, it's like 64% uh, in total from what I've read of frost resistance. That's pretty fucking good. So it's like what, 40, 40, and 40, but then it's 64 for frost. Let's see. On top of that, when blocking with Silent Flow Surge, provide 3 blocks for your teammates with the lowest health, excluding yourself for 10 seconds. The block amount will not exceed to 50% of the teammates' maximum health. So it basically just blocks their bullshit, and they don't really need to worry about it as much. That's just how I'm reading about it. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but whatever the fuck. Um, the way and how I see tanks is that there's basically like 3 different tanks. You got the standard tank, which is basically like the meta tank or like the most common tank. You got the HP tank, which is what I want to be, the biggest amount of health possible. I don't care what limits I need to reach. I just want to have like the idea that I have basically 70k HP, while the normal tank will have like 40k maximum, right? And there's something called a defense tank or resistance tank, where they may not have the best health possible, but they make up for it for having the hugest amount of resistances possible. So it's like, why give a fuck about having HP when you're basically immune or heavily resistant to fucking everything? And when you do the math, that's basically like saying, let's say I have myself 20k HP, but let's also assume that I have 75% on all resistances. Let's just assume that. So when you really think about it, that's basically me saying I have arguably speaking 20,000 HP times 1.75 because I have all resistances. So I effectively have 35k HP. And that is the philosophy of a resistance tank. And that's also the reason why I want to make myself a HP tank instead, because I will already have myself like some of the resistances anyway, right? So it's like, yes, I might not have as much HP, but they're also not doing as much damage because I already have like as much buffs as I can to like not give a fuck. And I think something like this, like homework like this, like fantasizing with what the fuck you want, gives you like a motivation for Tower Fantasy or for any MMO in general, or just having a goal in general, even of what the fuck you really want to go for. Because I feel like right now, especially for the free to play players, they are pretty fucking aimless with what they want. Oh, I'm gonna get Lin and Sakifura, but I also want to get myself Lyra. Maybe I can try and get myself that new character, Alice. Okay, and then next I'm gonna get Umi, and then next I'm gonna get Fenrir. Like, what you need to do is shut the fuck up and think about what you really want to go for. You have four teams, you need to pick one. You want to go fire. Fire's not looking too good right now, but you need to save up regardless. Volt. Volt, if you've missed Nemesis, maybe Nemesis could like fucking be in a reroll, for like eventually. For Frost right now they're dealing with Sakifua, and then later onwards they're gonna deal with Alice. For Grievous, which is what I'm going for Team Grievous, I wanna go for Lyra. I'm gonna go for Lyra and Umi. I feel like Lyra and Umi are gonna be fucking disgustingly powerful. And even though I'm gonna be balanced, or I have to be basically scuffed fortitude, I still think that I'm gonna be just deep dicking everyone that I can because of how much resistances I'm going to have. And I can basically just taunt everything. I feel like I can shrug off, like, and this is just me fantasizing with what I think is going to happen. Well, especially with how I think of the expectation versus reality. Even though the reality isn't going to be as I expect it to be, at least the fantasy of me being able to shrug off any type of damage, or me being able to not give a fuck about damage in general, even though I'm not doing as much damage as other people. At least I'm satisfied enough with what I want to do. Like at least with Team Grievous, maybe it's not the best team comp possible. Maybe Team Volt or Team Ice, for example, because they have like that special CC bullshit. Maybe they can work with it more than I would assume with it. But at least with Team Grievous, I'm basically fucking Jesus once I get star 5 and 40,000, actually not 40,000, 4,000 Simiscarla. Now, how am I going to reach 5 stars a free to play player? Other than spending money, which I'm not going to be doing, I would need to basically use worst case scenario 600 black gold, and not only that, but Lyra also has to be re-rolled. And I don't know when the fuck that re-roll is going to happen. It could be like next year after Lyra comes out. It can be like 2 years from now. And we also need to worry if Tower Fantasy is even going to stay online or not. Or if it's so bad they need to pull the plug. Which I really hope it doesn't happen. There's always still going to be that little bit of anxiety of like, oh, the game's dying, this and that. I don't really give a fuck. I just play the game. Who gives a fuck, right? And I understand that people do this so that way they can clickbait, but I solemnly still believe that Tower Fantasy, the way and how the game is, it could actually eventually fucking die, and I worry of that actually happening. But I don't really think about it that much. I don't really give a fuck. I just play the game. I just do whatever the fuck I want over there. Now, one more thing I do need to say before I close off is just don't overthink about this bullshit. Like, I've done this literally ever since I saw Sakifura coming out to global, and it was 2 weeks for you to prepare before Sakifura was actually out, and now she's out. You got 3 weeks before she's no longer out. Um, I feel like I've made my final decision with Sakifura. I can only do a maximum of 2 pity pulls, and there's absolutely no chance in hell for me that I'm actually going to be pulling out Sakifura, because even though, let's say I do pull off a pity, it's 50-50. I'm either going to get her or I'm not going to be getting her. So that's also another reason why I can't really get Sakifura. It's just too fucking risky for me to get her. So the safer way I could pull this shit off is forget about Sakifura, forget about Lin, and I would focus on Lyra. And because I would basically have myself more of that nucleus, instead of having 2 pity pulls, I'll say maybe I have like 3. I feel like with 3, I would have at least almost a guaranteed 1 Lyra pull, and it's gonna be a 0 star, right? It's gonna fucking suck, but at least I got probably 1 pull of Lyra, because it can actually happen where you get like 3 pity pulls and you still get I saw a king, I saw a, let's say, a fucking Shiro, and I got myself a mirror and I didn't fucking get Lyra. That can fucking happen. Like, it's 50-50. You either get it or you don't, and it's really stupid that it's a 50-50 and you get the thing or you don't get the thing. Like, you need to every time you need to pull off a pity pull, it's a fucking coin flip if you're going to get the thing or not. It's fucking annoying, but it is what it is, and that's how they make money. Um, but yeah, don't overthink about it too much. Don't think about the numbers as much. Like, just wait it out. The CN servers are completely fucking different than the global servers. So whenever you think about the CN servers, you basically need to think of what's going to be nerfed, how much the nerf damage is going to be, how much the nerf numbers are. You need to think about that type of bullshit instead of just, oh wow, this is broken because X amount of damage or Y amount of healing. Because I can almost guarantee you that if you stick with Frost, and let's say you get Sakifura, you need to focus on Alice. So if I went with Team Frost, I'd already need to worry about Sakifura. And not only that, I'd also need to worry about banking more of that nucleus just so I can get myself Alice. And I don't really want to get myself Alice. In a way, I feel like she's unique and she is pretty amazing what she can do. She's basically like an offense version of Meryl, in my opinion. But I would prefer to have robotic fists for weapons, and then I'd basically have myself like basically a demon whip for Umi. I think Umi is going to be fucking ridiculous. I feel like Umi is going to like basically shred fucking shields if you know how to use the cards right. Literally, she has cards for her skill, and one of the cards give you like a special combo for like this like spherical orb shit, and this thing can basically like it does so much tick damage, it just shreds fucking shields. It's fucking amazing. And when it comes for Lyra, right? That will fucking stack up your weapon charge really quick, even though it's at around 8 if I'm not lost. Yeah, it's not 8, it's actually 10. So she's actually pretty decent with charging up charge. And Shatter is pretty fucking good. It's basically an S rank at 12. Um, Now, what am I going to be realistically having with Lyra? Hopefully, I can get myself a 1 star and I can start off with that. But my aim and purpose is to see if I can get myself the very, very long and hard journey of 5 star Lyra. And Umi's even fucking worse because Umi needs to get herself 6 stars so that way she can get herself a second whip, which will make her absolutely fucking disgusting. Again, I don't care how long this shit takes because I know it's possible because I've done something like this before. I've done this with Fortnite, for example. I started the game properly since pretty much the week ending of season 2. So I basically properly started in season 3, and I've waited for 5 fucking seasons just so I can get myself a battle pass, and I got the battle pass basically for playing the game for like a year and a half, if I'm not lost. Like, it was so fucking ridiculous. The grinding was slow as fuck, but I fucking got it. And I feel like I can do the exact same shit with Tower Fantasy. It's just that it's gonna be even fucking longer unless I have to spend money, which hopefully that doesn't really come to the case. So I hope that this video, as boring as it fucking seems, I hope this has been at least somewhat educational, especially for the free-to-play players and maybe some of the dolphins out there. For whales, maybe they could save a few bucks here and there. But generally speaking, at the end of the day, it's a video game. It's not supposed to be taken that seriously. Who gives a fuck? Um, I've learned like these kinds of lessons with trial and error, and I've also learned them majorly with the way how Asmongold has talked about these in his way, and I feel like it's an important lesson to not worry about X thing for Y objective, so that way you can get Z reward. Especially for something like Tower Fantasy, because Tower Fantasy is pretty much a PvE game. You're not really doing anything except for like raid bosses. Yes, fine, they're doing like more game modes, but there's no true PvP except for like Apex League. And Apex League, you don't really need to worry about it all that much because everything's basically at the same stars. So who gives a fuck? You're pretty much all starting off with 0 stars. I'm not too sure how the traits are going to be, but yeah, I really like being the whole Jesus team player once I will eventually reach there. It's possible. It's just going to take a really long fucking time once I do. This has pretty much gone for a while. Holy shit, I was not expecting myself to be making a 33-minute video, but here we are. So I think I'm just gonna close off right now. Again, don't overthink about it too much. Do your homework, even though it can be fucking frustrating. I've been there myself. I mean, for fuck's sake. I've been using, what is it? Genjin.gg, and I've also been using the Tower Fantasy Index or Tower Fantasy.info. Like, we've all fucking used this shit if you're properly taking, if you're playing Tower Fantasy properly. Excuse me, I got my words mixed up, right? We know like what the future characters are going to be because the CN service get them first, and then we get them like, if I'm not lost, for maybe 5 months later. That's just how I'm calculating this whole idea. And yeah, one more thing, I guess, before I leave off. How do I feel about Tower Fantasy? So there's been a point to where I actually felt like I was stuck with Tower Fantasy, even though I had a bunch of shit left that I needed to do. And it all started off with the way and how my armor was, and it felt shitty in my opinion. Because I had like 3 pieces of like golden armor, like the fortress armor. I had like fortress gloves, boots, and shoulders. And I felt like I was like not getting enough content as I really thought I could. And I wasn't doing as much game modes, and I felt so stuck. I actually went to Reddit and say, so what the fuck is the end game? And then that gave me like some sort of like advice in here and there. And I just said, you know what? Fuck this shit. I am just going to be selling like like literally I did this. I recycled all my fucking armor. I just said fuck this, we're starting off new game plus, and here we are now, and I've already gotten myself 2 golden weaponry. I got on the boots and I got on the shoulders again. The boots are also in crit, so I'm really happy with that shit. Um, if you were to try and give myself like the perfect idea of what I want to go for, so long as I can get myself HP and crit, I don't really care about like if it's like fire damage or frost damage. Even though arguably speaking, I want resistances more than attack. So long as I can get myself HP and crit, I'm pretty happy. Because the rest of the random stats just do it for me. Or it just gives me like some sort of like additional niche bonus. Yeah, I feel like this has gone on long enough. So, revision. You don't need to force a summon for the newest character, currently is Sakifura. Uh, compare the not heroes, the Simuscala, what the fuck they're called, right? Compare the anime waifus, let's be real, on Team A versus Team B. Is waifu A better than waifu B? And if so, why? And don't make it with appeal. There's Twitter and hentai for you to do that. Focus on like the damage, focus on the resistances, focus on what they do, focus on like what they cannot do, focus on like what they give up for your team, you know, that kind of shit. Do your studying, do some of the homework if you really care about her fantasy that much. Uh, and that's how I'm basically trying to save up money as best as I can, especially when it comes to like dark crystals and saving a red nucleus. I didn't do not one fucking pull with red nucleus, by the way. What else? That's about it. And then the last one's just not overthinking about it. Yeah, I think I'm done from now. So, I have no idea if this is gonna be coming out to YouTube because it's over 15 minutes. That's fine. But because I've made myself like some special whatever the fuck, I should be able to get this off, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I guess I'm just gonna close off from here. Hope this has been like somewhat educational for you guys. As boring as it seems, but this is just my takes. I'll see you whenever the fuck. Peace out.